We've been gone for a while, but that doesn't mean that the entire freaking Georgia political universe didn't get flipped upside down while we were away. And boy, do we have some things to talk about. Let's get into it. Peach Pundit, the podcast, is a conversation filled with the personal opinions of the people who are participating. Any view or opinion expressed belongs only to the person who expressed it and not with anyone with whom that person is professionally affiliated. Those are the tones you've been waiting to hear. We didn't podcast last week.
Weeks and weeks have gone by.
Yeah, it's been, I think, 12 days since our last recording. And I know some of you are really upset. You're sending us threatening texts and emails and memes. But this is the question I have for you. Why do you want to talk about that when the Dow is over 50,000 people? Yeah. We should be talking about that.
We
Not
should
that
end
the podcast has been delayed.
We can end the podcast right there, Scott. The Dow is over 50. Yeah. Well, it was. I don't know that it is anymore. Hold on.
It wasn't as of an hour ago.
No.
But if the Dow's over 50,000, why does anything else matter? We should just end the podcast. You're absolutely right, Buzz. Don't you ever accuse me of a crime. It is not a crime to miss a week of podcasting, although we do feel like we let you down. Sorry. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Doing all right.
What have you been doing with your time in the absence since we've last recorded?
Oh, man. Phew. Lots and lots of stuff. It's a busy session, man. It's a busy legislative session.
Nuts. It's just, the session has been so incredibly nuts. This is the busiest I've been since I was actually in the legislature.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate for some of the things, but it's, we're doing some really good stuff in other places too.
Hey, I mean, look, if we had enough Patreons, if everybody listening to this was a Patreon at the highest level, Scott and I could do this I don't know. We'd have a lot more money.
Yeah.
Maybe we couldn't do it full time, but we'd be a whole lot closer than being able to do it full time than we are right now.
Yeah, we know there's a lot more listeners than Patreons. If you wanted to join the Patreon, head on over to patreon.com/peachpundit. Sign up for one of those tiers. Terry Phi is our latest one. He joined up yesterday. Yeah. Terry, if you're out there, you got to download the Signal Chat app in order to be in the Signal Chat. I've sent you a couple of links for that. Hopefully you can figure that out. Call us if you need help. You should have gotten a text message.
He might be busy making a living too. So
yeah, well, I mean, but I looked down yesterday. So the last couple of days I was in DC. Interestingly, I had been planning to go to DC in those 2 days since early December.
Wink, wink.
And yeah, well, wink, wink. And my friend Barry Loudermilk called last week before the news broke to let a handful of us know that he was going to retire. And we're going to talk about Barry tonight. But I went to DC. I went straight to his office off the airplane and spent some time with him. And I asked him, hey, you want to start some rumors? We'll take a selfie real fast. The most joyful smile on this man's face I've ever seen. And within minutes of me posting that on Facebook saying, I'm making the rounds, I started getting text messages from across the state. Are you running? Are you running? How do I donate? Like, no. I am not running, unequivocally. It was just something fun. So, I was in DC last couple of days, and that was snow on the ground. First time I've been in DC with snow on the ground.
Wow.
Beautiful. The city's just, I think it's always beautiful, frankly, but we're going to get into this podcast because, like I said at the top, the whole political universe in Georgia has been flipped on its head for all kinds of different reasons.
Yes.
And, we're talking about Rick Jackson, clearly. We're going to talk about Rick Jackson. We're going to talk about Barry Loudermilk. We're going to talk about Clay Fuller up there in the Congressional District 14 race making waves. Why the Republican National Committee members from Georgia want to rig elections. And there's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
They're trying to rig the system because they don't trust the voters, I guess. And that DOJ warrant where, we said it's too early for us to have a take. Well, I think we know enough now.
Yeah, now we can have a take.
Yeah, we can have a take now.
Well,
so
I
we'll
already
get to
had
that
a take,
too.
but we can have another take.
We feel like that's a lot, even though it's a short number of things, but there's so much to talk about in every one of those. So we will get to all that right after this.
Peach Pundit has an anonymous Patreon who would like to invite you to learn more about the Alzheimer's Association. The Alzheimer's Association leads the way to end Alzheimer's and all other dementia by accelerating global research, driving risk reduction and early detection, and maximizing quality care and support. No one should fight Alzheimer's alone. With your help, no one will. Learn more on their website, alz.org.
Americans for Prosperity Georgia is out in communities across the state, celebrating the policy wins of the last several years and casting a vision for what the future holds. Visit peachstateplaybook.org. That's peachstateplaybook.org to learn more about the game plan for freedom and prosperity, because to win, you have to call the right plays. Thank you to AFP Georgia for being a partner level Patreon. If you too would like to join our list of people who rock, that's what we call our Patreons. Starting at $5 a month, you get access to that Signal chat I was talking about. Of course, you got to download the app, Terry. Download the app. We want to talk to you. Come join the community. I looked down yesterday and I had something like 75 notifications from the Peach Pundit Signal chat.
Yeah, you stay away for a few hours, you miss a lot.
Yeah, and I was in a place where I had to actually turn my phone off. So we turned it back on. There's 75. Oh, wow, very active yesterday. Thank you to all of our Patrons. If you'd like to join them, head to patreon.com/peachpundit. So you and I know who Rick Jackson is.
Yes.
Why do we know who Rick Jackson is?
Because he's been active in supporting Republicans for office for quite some time now.
Yeah, I'm not gonna bury the lead on Rick Jackson. I became aware of Rick Jackson through Jeff Duncan.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go so far as to say, without Rick Jackson, there is no political career for Jeff Duncan. Would that be fair?
I mean, look, Jeff, the Republican Jeff, was a very talented, conservative, Forsyth County-ish Republican guy. So, yeah,
a genuine conservative.
He might not be lieutenant governor. Maybe that's a fair statement. He probably would have been elected to lieutenant governor.
I
without
remember
Rick Jackson's help.
Yeah, I remember there was a bill that the speaker at the time had a member carry targeting specifically Rick Jackson. I guess he was a member of like the DCA board or something. And I was confused. I read the bill and I was confused. Why are we doing this? What are we doing exactly? And it would have removed Rick Jackson from that board. And I went to the bill sponsor and I asked them, well, what is this about? Oh, yeah, this guy up front wants me to mess with Rick.
Yeah, there was something. I mean, I was racking my brain trying to remember
all the details, but
trying to remember the bill. And Mr. Jackson, started like taking out newspaper ads in like the speaker's hometown or something. I mean, it went to 100 quickly. Which, watching his campaign in the early days here, it seems like that's a pattern. He takes things to 100 pretty quickly. So
I was in Athens last Monday for the trial in Tara Baker's case, and I get a text message asking me if I had seen this press release announcing Rick Jackson's campaign. Now, you and I have a mutual friend who's known Rick Jackson for decades.
Yes.
And had coffee with him like 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
And he told us he had no idea, sitting down for coffee with Rick, had no idea he was about to launch a gubernatorial campaign.
The man knows how to keep a secret. That is, because nobody was talking about this.
There was not a whisper in the Capitol, and the Capitol prides itself on being the grapevine for, especially during a legislative session, for political rumors. We had no clue this was going to happen. No, none at all. But he announces he's putting $50 million of his own money into the race, which I start doing the calculations. I think it's reasonable with him in the race now that the Jones family comes in big for Burt.
Mm-hmm.
We could potentially have a $150 million campaign between, and Brad Raffensperger's clearly going to spend some money.
$150
million just for the nomination on the Republican side.
Yeah. Raffensperger's a man of means, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And I did, look, I love Chris Carr, but I did that to laugh. He releases a little video saying, look at all these wealthy people trying to buy the seat. And A nice way of saying, vote for the poor guy. I mean, that's Chris Carr isn't poor either, but there's
No,
levels to these things, right?
yeah.
And Rick Jackson is at the highest level.
There's millionaires and there's billionaires, and you
Yes.
gotta, you gotta have a lot more to be in the B club versus the M club. But I will say that I was 40 million of the 50 million apparently had already been set to be spent on ad buys. I saw his ad during the Super Bowl
Phew.
on the
Yeah.
local buy. I mean, that couldn't have been
That
cheap.
wasn't cheap.
And so the very first poll that came out was an internal poll. It was Cygnal, which is the governor's
Mm-hmm.
preferred pollster, and it had him at 16 points and in second place against Burt.
Yeah.
And the Burt camp was completely caught off guard by this. Since Rick has entered the race, we have seen the Burt camp really lean into the Trump endorsement.
Right. Well,
which is not something that he did during his first lieutenant governor run.
And there's been an ethics complaint filed against Jackson by one of the lieutenant governor's allies, alleging that they were spending money before they filed the proper paperwork. So,
well, that'll be interesting. Well,
and of course, there's a lawsuit. The leadership committee is being sued yet again, this time by Rick Jackson.
Well, and there's some precedent behind that because David Perdue sued during his run against Brian Kemp and won that lawsuit and was able to keep Kemp from spending money during the primary.
Now, look, that would be a big blow to the Jones campaign because his leadership account is where all the money's at.
Right.
There's $15 million in that account.
Right. That is nothing to sneeze at. And to lose that type of money in the primary when you got a guy spending $50 million on his first salvo. It's his first check that he's written himself. And but this is what was really, really interesting. Within 8 or 9 days of him announcing, another poll came out, and he's the front runner.
Yeah.
In that poll. Now, polls can be outliers.
Yeah.
We have very limited polling data at this point. We have basically what was an internal Signal poll, and then this, I guess, another poll that had him coming out. But 24-16 was the margin for between Jackson after a little more than a week.
Yeah.
Is this sustainable? And what does it say?
Sure. I mean, well, my first thought when I saw that second poll was that clearly this was a race. I mean, other polls we've seen, right? Every poll that's been taken in the race shows an enormous 40-50% of people undecided still.
Even in that poll, there are 42% undecided.
Right. So still a lot of people undecided. But I mean, what it says, both of those polls, you jump out of nowhere into double digits and into the lead in one poll. That indicates to me that the race that the public was looking for another candidate to consider. It's wild. It's interesting, but here we go.
Right. And I think one of the lobbyists, our friends in the hall, said it really demonstrates the weak frontrunner status that Burt was in. He was largely by the Gold Dome crowd considered the presumptive nominee.
Right.
Really. So he was in a position of strength. He's been governing from a position of strength. He's been able to sort of throw his weight around a little bit in his influence as the presumptive nominee within the legislative session this year. But then this comes along and it kind of demonstrates that the people were kind of hungry for something different.
Yeah.
And that his lead was really sort of very weak to begin with.
Yeah.
And he's been running for 2 years against Chris Carr and Brad Raffensperger. And, and I have it on good authority that they really, the grassroots don't like those two guys. At least that's what some of the people who claim that they are the grassroots were really actually.
The election integrity industrial complex doesn't like those two guys. How many other people? Sure, all sorts of people saying all sorts of stuff on social media. You mean to tell me that you're Joe Blow Republican down in middle Georgia or South Georgia, you think the election was stolen, but you're going to sit back and vote for Keisha Lance Bottoms or sit by quietly and let her assume the governor's office because you don't like Brad Raffensperger? I find that hard to believe.
Another data point has come out over the last couple of days too, in that Rick Jackson late last year wrote a maxed out check to the Jones campaign to become governor.
Yeah, there's a story there. I don't know
Well-
the story. I'm just saying there has to be a story there. You don't max out against a guy and then in your announcement say I'm running because that guy's lazy. You don't. Those two things don't jive.
Something happened.
Something happened.
We don't know what happened, but something happened. And Rick Jackson went on Eric Erickson's show where he said, look, I've been watching the polling. I've been looking at this race. I think the manner in which Burt Jones is running his race it's all about Trump. And I think that that's not good enough to win the general election. I think he would end up getting smashed in the general election. And therefore I had to get in. And that's
Interesting.
And he has sort of a compelling story. He was raised in foster care. He lived in the projects in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Basically started from nothing and became a billionaire through his various business acumen.
Yep.
And the businesses he's had.
It's impressive. I mean, that's an impressive story. Now, look, his record will be examined, and we already saw a shot of that already. So the counterattack from the Jones campaign has begun. The examination of Rick Jackson's business life has begun. Story in Breitbart, and just so you know, if you see a story in Breitbart, it was probably planted there. That's what Breitbart does these days. The Steve Bannon version of Breitbart, they receive planted stories. Not to say the story's not accurate. I don't know. I glanced over it. It's accusing one of Jackson's companies of staffing people at Planned Parenthood. So how can you be a pro-life person and staff people at Planned Parenthood? Let the reader decide. But I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see a lot of examination of everything that Rick Jackson has done. But what I know about him is, aside from being a very successful person, he is very philanthropic as well, especially when it comes to things like foster care, and for obvious reasons. That's his life story. And so he's giving back and helping people. So it's very interesting. And as you said, Scott, right now it's turned the race upside down and caused all sorts of chaos among our friends in the Gold Dome crowd, right?
Yeah.
And he is introducing himself to the public. I've seen, good grief, I watch a lot of YouTube. His ads are all over the place. I've received 2 mailers already. Have you seen? I've seen the TV ads, like the Super Bowl, and
everywhere.
Watching college
Social
basketball. Yes, it's
everywhere.
So y'all are gonna get to hear a lot about Rick Jackson through his ads. That's got to be very interesting to see how that plays out, because that's the thing, right? I mean, when candidates come out of nowhere, or first-time candidates for a high-profile office like this, you're running against 3 guys who have lots of name ID because they've been elected statewide numerous times. You got to raise your name ID. The way you do that is spend a lot of money, and Mr. Jackson has that ability to spend a heck of a lot of money. So
at his kickoff event, there's one of the ads that just absolutely stood out to me was where he said this during his kickoff speech: the political class protects itself, the media protects them, and the lobbyists prop the whole thing up. It's a cartel, and I'm coming to break it up.
Yeah, and look, I mean, what is his ads that are running thus far? To me, very smart. He says, very simple messages. I'm gonna cut the income tax in half and freeze property tax, and if I don't, I won't run again. I'm gonna do boom, boom, boom. Very simple, clear statements of policy that will probably resonate really well in a conservative Republican primary.
But when I saw the ad, I was like, wait a minute. I think I said that like in 2012 in my first campaign. I didn't have a $50 million campaign, but
yeah,
it resonated with me because those were the things. The 2012 version of Scott was really fired up about that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So who knows? This is Georgia politics, man.
Sure.
You can't predict what's going to happen.
Right.
We had this prediction episode at the beginning of the year. We intentionally stayed away, not just because we can't predict it, but also because we didn't want to make anybody mad
right.
by telling you who we thought was going to win.
Right. Because we didn't know. I mean, look, Lieutenant Governor Jones, no doubt the Trump endorsement helps him, no doubt about it. And look, his record too. He's done a pretty darn good job as supporting stuff that people like as a senator and as in his first term as lieutenant governor. So I'm not surprised that he's a front runner in this, up to now. Not surprised by that by all. I think we know that Brad Raffensperger has been underestimated his whole time in politics, and here he is. So why should you dismiss him? And Chris Carr, this super smart guy, serious candidate, done a great job as Attorney General, plugged in politically in this state to maybe more of my crowd, the old guard, the old people, the old Republican Party. But there's still a heck of a lot of them who carry a heck of a lot of influence. So how can you can chart a path to victory for every one of these guys in this race.
Right. Yeah, and you can, but I do want to kind of switch gears a little bit and talk about something I think will absolutely backfire on Burt Jones.
Because they go hand in hand.
They do.
These two topics. So
yeah. And it wasn't listed second, but they absolutely go together. Yeah. And that was there seems to be a little bit of panic in the Jones camp. Because one of the very first things that we've heard as a result of Jackson getting in is the Republican National Committee has requested a Rule 11 waiver from the state party so that the Republican National Committee can begin supporting a candidate in a contested primary. So there are two sets of rules here. There's the national rule and there's a state level rule where the party is not supposed to, or officials are not supposed to use their official capacities to play in primaries. Mm-hmm. And so when I say rigging elections earlier, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The three committee members. Yeah. Amy Kramer is the national committee woman. So there's a man and a woman for every state. Jason Thompson is our national committee man. These are elected positions at convention by delegates to represent the party at the RNC. And then Josh McCoon as chairman also gets a vote, and so is also a member of the RNC on behalf of the state. So these three individuals signed a letter expressly giving permission to the RNC to waive Rule 11. Rule 11 says the Republican National Committee cannot contribute money or provide in-kind assistance to any candidate for public office or party office in a state when the candidate is facing a contested process to become the Republican nominee, unless the RNC has a prior written approval filed with the RNC of all RNC members in that state. Mm-hmm. Takes three. So they did this.
Yeah, you want me? I've got a little bit of backstory.
Yes, please.
So 5-6 weeks ago, listen to that. How long have we been in session?
5-6 weeks ago.
Yeah. I was at the Capitol. A person plugged into Republican politics and plugged into the Capitol goings on pulled me aside and said, hey, there's something called Rule 11 of the RNC. 2 people have signed it. 1 has not of those 3. And the Jones campaign, the lieutenant governor himself, the hammer's coming down on that person who has not signed it. I don't want to name because I don't want to cause a trouble, for those 3 more than they've caused them for themselves. And so and the person was a little sketchy on what does Rule 11 mean? I don't know. I don't know how this works. I don't know why this is important, but this is happening, and it's an attempt to get remove the party from neutrality to siding with the Jones campaign. So I started Googling and digging, and the rule as you described it, and there is that out there, that process that allows the RNC to get involved in certain instances, as you mentioned, Scott. The interesting part about it is that it's been used before, not in Georgia that I could find, but in other states, very rarely. And what it's been used for, the reason that it gets waived in these rare occasions is when you have a primary in name only. In other words, you have a front runner who everybody is rallying around, from the establishment to the grassroots to the money people to the polling. And you've got the primary as a formality. So why are we wasting our time let's waive this, let's get involved, and let's go. So that's why it's very rare. And that is certainly not the case. Even before Rick Jackson got in the race, that was terminology to describe what was going on in the Georgia's governor's race. We don't have a primary name only. We don't have a person who is dominating and running away with it. We have a Trump-endorsed candidate, and we have others in this race. And now we have an extra person in this race. So, and that's reflected in the Politico story that outlines this, that this was done to get the RNC behind Burt Jones.
So Josh McCoon, since this story broke, is attempting to talk out of both sides of his mouth. You're nicer than me. You may not see it that way.
No, well, the way I'd phrase it is the quotes in the Politico story and the quotes on his Facebook page are awfully hard to reconcile.
So he's blocked me on Facebook. So I'll let you look up the Facebook thing real fast, but I'll read. Well, actually, no, I've got it here. Somebody posted it in the posted it in the chat, in the Signal chat. Thank you to our Signal chat members for screen capping his thing so I can see what he's posting on social media. His quote in the Politico article was Josh McCoon, the chair of the Georgia Republican Party, said he signed the letter waiving the RNC's neutrality rule because Jones has Trump's endorsement. It was a no-brainer for me to sign the letter, McCoon told Politico. From my perspective, I was going to remove any barriers to working with the RNC from a candidate that the president has clearly signaled as the candidate he wants to be the next governor, he said. And so that's very clear.
Yes.
What the intentions are, right? Here comes like the next day after the party apparatus begins to like, hey, wait a minute. We don't do this in Georgia. We don't play. We don't use the party resources to play in contested primaries. I heard from activists from across the state.
Yes. And complaints of state committee members saying, why weren't we given any sort of heads up
that
this was under consideration?
We're going to get to that. We're going to stay on McCoon for just a second, but because we're going to get to that because there's been blowback and it's been significant. Josh McCoon posted on social media, a few people have contacted me regarding yesterday's news of the Rule 11 waiver executed by Georgia members of the Republican National Committee. This waiver permits the RNC, if it chooses, to engage on behalf of a candidate in a contested primary. The waiver is not an endorsement of any candidate by the Georgia Republican Party. The waiver is not an endorsement of any candidate by any of the signers of the waiver. The Georgia Republican Party will not mobilize resources or direct funds to any candidate in any contested primary election so long as I am chairman. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Yeah.
It's really hard to square.
And no comments allowed on his Facebook post.
He blocked people from being able to give feedback?
Yeah. He might probably assumed he'd received enough feedback already.
Well, let's talk about the feedback then. You alluded to it, so run with it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people posting, longtime party members, not fly-by-nighters, people who have been around, have held positions within this party at various levels.
Donated tens of thousands of dollars to the party during their lifetime.
And lots of blood, sweat, and tears to help get Republicans elected. A bunch of them, too, who remember the days when we were not in the majority in this party, and we had to work like heck to try to get our folks elected. Those folks are, what in the world is going on? This is not what we do. A lot of them saying, I've seen a number of people saying, I fully support Burt Jones, but this isn't right. We have a primary. Right. So, yeah, the blowback has been significant, at least on social media.
So
yeah.
And Lane Flynn has a great piece about this, about we don't even care about the rules anymore. Let's just stop pretending we care about the rules. But he posted on his own social media, Amy Kramer is the national committee woman. And this was his take. The Georgia GOP chair published a well-written and fairly implausible justification that the state party isn't actually violating neutrality in the gubernatorial primary. And along comes the GOP national committee woman, like, the F we're not, because this is what she wrote. Statement from RNC National Committee woman on signing the Rule 11. I signed Rule 11 on December 10th because I do not believe Brad Raffensperger or Chris Carr should ever be allowed to be governor of Georgia. Their intention was clear.
Yes.
They're supporting one guy.
Yep.
And it is difficult to square what Josh is saying in one side of his mouth. Oh, we're not going to do that.
Yeah. It's that daggum RNC. Oh, my.
Right. That
I'm
couldn't
neutral,
do that.
but that
Right.
daggum RNC got involved.
Right. Right. But here's the other part of this rumor. We're hearing all kinds of rumors that because of Jackson's strong launch, probably one of the strongest launches I've ever seen of a campaign. I mean, I called Mike Collins' kickoff pretty strong when it first rolled out, and it's sort of petered out. It hasn't really continued that momentum.
Yeah.
So, like I said during the earlier part of this podcast, anything could change with Rick Jackson's momentum.
Sure.
But his rollout has been stellar.
I've received two mailers in
Yeah,
addition to all the TV ads that I've seen.
Right.
And social
we're getting
media
bombarded
ads
already.
all over the place. Yeah.
And qualifying for this is next month.
Yeah.
We're just a few weeks away from qualifying. And then the May primary, we're less than 100 days until the May primary, like 90 days until the May primary. So there's a very tight window, and he's got all the energy. And there's rumors around the Capitol of, well, we're hearing there may be 2 Trump-endorsed candidates in this race, which is not unprecedented for Donald Trump. He has endorsed multiple candidates in the same race before.
Yes.
Do you think is that just the lobbyist class freaking out, or do you think there's any validity to it?
Well, I think one of our friends suggested, a Capitol friend suggested, this seems to be a scenario that might play out as opposed to a second formal endorsement. Trump starts praising Rick Jackson, like, oh, I hear he's a really great guy, successful, starts a successful businessman, seems really strong, all those sorts of flowery things that Trump showers on people. And he starts saying really nice things about him. And so that's the signal to, hey, it's okay to vote for him too. Yeah.
So even that is up in the air at this point. It's not without precedent. It could happen. But along more feedback and blowback that the party has received, the district level leadership around the state. So every congressional district has their own committee. And the 10th Executive Direct Committee for the 10th Congressional District fired off a resolution condemning this action.
So
they were the first, but not the last.
Right. The 12th has done it too, I'm told.
Yep.
It was written by I don't know if he's a current district chair, but a former district chair over in the Clayton County area, whatever district that is, the 3rd maybe, Garrett Ashley. He wrote this and sent this to all the district chairs and say, why don't you guys pass this resolution? And 2 of them have. Yeah, it's a pretty strong statement about, hey, we're supposed to be neutral, and that is how we should conduct ourselves. And they condemn it. It actually uses the word, well, my thing shrunk. Here we go.
Therefore, it be resolved that the 10th District Republican Executive Committee condemns the suspension or circumvention of RNC Rule 11 for the purpose of permitting national interference in Georgia's contested Republican primary and elections.
Yep.
The party of election integrity is trying to rig the election.
Yeah.
That's really what's happening here. And this is so heartening to me that our activist class is engaging and saying, no, we believe in rules.
Right.
And we're going to have multiple congressional district level party committee structure pass these resolutions.
And maybe some county level, this could spread around. You see some county level parties do the same.
And it's what's interesting is you mentioned this too, and you hit upon it. Like, there are people who support Burt Jones who are opposed to this.
Yes.
We shouldn't be doing this.
Yes.
We should trust the voters.
Right.
These people, look, I have a lot of respect for Jason Thompson. I don't know Amy Kramer. Obviously, I talked about how Josh McCoon's blocked me on Facebook. Jason Thompson is a good person.
Yes.
And and the rumor was he was the holdout. And I've given him opportunity to make comment, and he's like, I don't think, he declined to make comment. But there's a reason why it didn't, she signed it on December 10th, and it broke this week. 3 days ago is when it broke.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. He was a holdout. He held out.
Yeah.
Because there had to be some sort of conflict of, this doesn't feel right.
And at least when the rumor reached my ears, at least in early January, he had not signed it.
Right.
So we don't know when. So it's been out there at least a month with Amy Kramer pushing it and McCoon having signed it.
For the intent of...
Because If you look at this, and this is where I've seen some people on social media saying, well, we don't have any idea what the statement says. It's not an endorsement of Burt Jones. We know that's not true because Amy Kramer, as Lane pointed on Facebook, and you can see it right there. It's still up on Amy Kramer's Twitter feed. It specifically says, waive Rule 11 so that the RNC can get behind Burt Jones. The
Right.
Politico article talks about this is done to clear the path to get behind Burt Jones. So activists out there who, oh, no, this isn't picking sides. It's just allowing the RNC to pick sides.
The letter that Amy Kramer signed.
The pick sides.
Says, in accordance with Rule 11A of the rules of the Republican Party,
Yes.
we, the undersigned members of the Republican National Committee for the state of Georgia, hereby approve any and all preliminary financial assistance and in-kind aid the RNC may choose to provide in furtherance of Georgia governor candidacy of Burt Jones.
Yeah. Now, look, it would be an all-time stupid thing, even before Rick Jackson got in the race. It would be an all-time stupid thing for the RNC to spend resources in this primary because it was wide open before Rick Jackson got in the race, and it's even more wide open now. We have no idea which of those people are going to win. We don't.
Look, as we're recording, the Dow is at 49,500.
Why
you know
are
why
we
we're
wasting our
talking about
time?
this? Yeah.
We got to get that thing back over 50.
When we come back, we're going to talk about Barry Loudermilk, my friend Barry, and also Clay Fuller and some other things too. So stay right there.
Golden Retriever Rescue of Atlanta, GRRA, is an all-volunteer, tax-deductible charitable organization. They are dedicated to providing veterinary care, comprehensive evaluation, and foster and adoptive homes to golden and Labrador retrievers who are abandoned, mistreated, neglected, or left in shelters throughout Georgia. We encourage you to visit their website grra.com and help connect people and dogs that need each other in their lives. You truly can make this world a better place by helping find homes of gold for these golden-hearted pups.
Thank you to all of our Patreons. Again, you can head on over to patreon.com/FuturePundit and sign up to be one of our people who rock. And also, if you don't even want to do that, just hit the like button. That helps us too. Subscribe helps us too. Turn on the notifications so you know when a new one is posted, because during legislative session, obviously, we're recording on a weird schedule whenever we can. Last year, I had a guy call me up and he said, hey, I want to go have lunch with you. And I'd never met him before. I'd never heard of him. And I was like, all right, well, I'll meet you at the Waffle House down the street. Let me go and have lunch. And he tells me, hey, I'm going to run for Congress. And then, you got to understand, I have a really good relationship with Barry Loudermilk. Barry Loudermilk was the first elected official to ever endorse me for anything. And we've been friends ever since. And I've always kind of looked up to him. And I know people have their different opinions of their congressman, whatever, but Barry's my friend. And I was like, are you going to run against Barry? And he goes, no. Barry's going to get an appointment to the Trump administration and it's going to open the seat. I'm going to run in an open seat. And I was like, so why are you talking to me? I'm a nobody. And he goes, well, a lot of people have told me that I need to talk to you. And I was like, yeah. So does Barry know he's going to get the appointment? And the guy's like, yeah, he clearly knows. And I was like, I don't think this is happening. And he's like, well, why not? He goes, I have really good intel. Like, he's going to get an appointment and he's going to accept. And I was like, because I talked to Barry 2 days ago and he told me he's not going anywhere. He's very happy serving the people of the 11th Congressional District and he's not going to accept. Like, this topic came up.
Yeah.
And he told me point blank that he wasn't going to do it. And the reason why it came up in the conversation is because there had been a rumor and it turned out that this guy was part of that rumor cycle, right? That he had, he was fomenting this or had heard a rumor and repeated it and was getting ready to run for Congress in this open seat that never materialized. And I told that guy at the time, I said, okay, I think I get it. I think I understand what's happening. Who told you to come talk to me? And he goes, well, some mutual friends. I was like, okay, those mutual friends really like you and they don't want you to hate them. But they sent you to me so that I could call your baby ugly because that's what I do. And your baby's really ugly. Like, nobody knows who you are. And you say you could go raise a ton of money, but you've just moved here within the last few years, there is a line of people that if they decide to run for Congress, I'm going to support them before I support you, because you haven't served this community at all. And these people are serving our community. And I guarantee you, I'm not going to run, but I'll be supporting one of my friends who have done good work here. And I think they deserve the shot to go and serve us in Washington. And so I think the people who sent you to me wanted me to tell you what they wanted you to hear, but didn't have the courage to tell you themselves, which has been my role in politics a lot. Right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't want to call your baby ugly, but I know who will. So does Scott. Scott will be honest with him.
You're the Kramer of, and I'm not the Amy Kramer, the Kramer, the Cosmo Kramer of Georgia politics.
So this rumor was out there last year. And when I called Barry after the conversation I had with the guy, and I told him about it, and he goes, this is so frustrating. And he goes, Scott, I guarantee you that when I decide to hang it up, there's going to be a very short list of people I call, and your name is going to be on it. Well,
it happened.
Yeah, I got the call. And I was very sad immediately. And we talked for about half an hour about it. And he was explaining how frustrating it is there, and that how Congress has changed since he's been there. They're not allowed to pass legislation. They're not allowed to introduce anything that's outside of their committees. They're not allowed. They have to raise tons of money to give to the conference.
Yeah.
That they're not even allowed to keep their own money that they raise. They have to give it away to the conference itself in order just to maintain their committee chairmanships or memberships. And if you become a chairman, I mean, you're raising tons of money,
right?
Especially if it's what's considered an A-level committee where a lot of money flows. And so he articulated the frustrations he had with Washington, but also a real desire to spend more time with his family, and how he has recently, his daughter has had another grandchild. And I think that makes number 9 for Barry.
Wow.
And he hadn't even met the child yet.
Oh, my goodness.
And so he hadn't had an opportunity to come home. And he was just, it's time for him to go, and I think he called the people he thought would have interest, and he knew I wasn't going to do it, but I think it was a courtesy call for me, because he talked to, and I asked him, who else have you talked to? Who can I talk to about this before the news breaks? I don't want to break anything. I'm going to keep silent until this is public. I won't do that for everybody. I do that for my friends, and he's a dear friend. So he said one of the people he had called was Michael Caldwell, who was number 1 on my list. And I told him, look, I'm not dancing on your grave, but I have to go right now. So I have to go and talk to Michael Caldwell and get him to run for Congress. Well, over the weekend, Michael decided not to do it. And he broke our hearts. And then Ed Setzler decided not to do it.
Yep.
And Matthew Gamble decided not to do it, those were my 3 guys.
Yeah.
Like, I would have been happy with any one of those 3.
Yep.
And when they all 3 decided not to do it, we sat down, you and I, along with another friend, had a long conversation with Ed Setzler about his thought process and the time constraints and having to be away from family and travel, and how hard it is to serve in Congress. So we do have some people running right now. One has not officially announced, but I'll tell you who it is. It's Rob Ackerson, who is the chief of staff. And in all transparency, Rob is a dear friend of mine, so you can do the math on that. He has been making the calls, and his announcement will be official on Tuesday, the 17th. He'll announce on that day, but he is definitely going to run. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, John Cowan is a doctor who lost in a runoff a few years ago to Marjorie Taylor Greene. He is out there raising money and working hard. So another candidate.
Well, this is the thing too, right? I remember when John Cowan ran against Marjorie Taylor Greene in the 14th, and he ran ads saying you shouldn't vote for somebody who doesn't live in the district.
Yes.
And John Cowan doesn't live in the district. Now he's going to say, I played football at Bartow County High School. Well, listen, you don't live here. That's great. But you don't live here.
Yeah.
You chose not to come back. You chose to run in a different congressional district, and you lost. And now you want to run in this district where you don't live. And the very first question you're going to have to answer, who are you going to vote for in this race? Because you can't vote for yourself. So I don't know John Cowan from Adam, but he's off my list immediately when I have somebody like Rob Ackerson available. And there are going to be others. We've heard Andrew Johnson.
Right.
Andrew Johnson. We've heard Tricia Pridemore.
Yeah, Andrew Johnson is the son of Scott Johnson, a longtime GOP activist, and now head of the Literacy Council. But Andrew is works in the Trump administration at the moment. So
Yeah.
not to imply, I have no idea.
Right.
Not to imply an endorsement is forthcoming. I have no idea.
And
But
through this process, I've learned who actually has the ear of Donald Trump and who doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's not who you think.
Yes.
I can't say who, but you would recognize the name, and it's not who you think. But apparently Trump sits down with, when it comes to Georgia matters specifically, with somebody who's well known, and they go through binders and they decide who Trump is going to endorse. That process has not been completed yet. So we have no idea, even if Donald Trump will endorse.
He may not. He may not endorse anybody, right?
Right.
Nobody knows.
But obviously, Rob is going to have Barry Loudermilk's support.
Yeah.
So, and Barry Loudermilk is on good terms with Donald Trump. So there's a lot of goodwill there.
Yeah.
And the Trisha Pridemore thing makes me sad because she's not electable anymore. And Fitz Johnson recently announced he's running for reelection, or he's going to seek the Republican nomination so he can take back his seat that he got beat on the special weird circumstances for PSC races. And it was so funny because I received the press release from the Fitz Johnson campaign on the same day I'd actually sat down to write an open letter encouraging Fitz Johnson to not seek the nomination, because our Republicans serving on the Public Service Commission right now are uniquely weak because of all of the rate hikes that they've passed over the years without being able to clearly articulate why it was necessary. And people are feeling the pinch in their wallets, and they look at their energy bills and they're higher, and they're blaming these folks. So Trisha Pridemore looking to get out of the frying pan into the fire. And I have a lot of respect for Trisha. I like her as a person.
But like her a lot.
Come on. Like, just go on home. You're a very successful businesswoman. You've been successful in all kinds of things, but you've made a series of very costly political mistakes, and there is no path for you. So stay out of that, please. As a person who gets to vote, so many of these elections, we talk about, I don't get to vote in those elections. I get to vote in this one. I live in the 11th.
I don't.
All right. I get to vote, but one of the candidates doesn't even get to vote for himself. So
now, what's interesting. Loudermilk is not resigning early.
No,
this is not a special election.
He's serving.
This will happen in the normal order of things. So we will have a Republican primary, and I'm sure there will be a couple of Democrats who run, and they'll have their primary, and then the Republican will win in November. So, and you don't have to run 7 times like the people in Marjorie Taylor Greene's district are going to have to do.
Right, because there will be runoffs there, multiple people.
Yep.
And there's that Senate seat that we're in the special election for now that was vacated by Colton Moore. Sorry, every time I say Colton's name, a little bit of heartburn.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But Colton has positioned himself to be the MAGA candidate, and the guy who says, I'm 100% with Trump. I 100% support Donald Trump. Everything Donald Trump says and does, I'm with him. I'm with him. I'm with him. And here's the danger when you start saying that you're 100% with somebody, because it's impossible.
There was no asterisk by those comments that I ever saw.
Right. And if loyalty to Donald Trump means you're with him 100% of the time, what does it say when Donald Trump decides to endorse Clay Fuller, your opponent in the race, instead of you?
He should drop out and endorse Clay Fuller. That's what
if he
that
was
says
loyal
to me.
to Donald Trump, he would drop out and endorse Clay Fuller.
Yes.
But he's not. And he's not.
Yes.
I have watched MAGA eat itself alive over these purity tests. You're not allowed, if you disagree with Donald Trump and you say anything, you have Trump derangement syndrome.
Right.
And it could be just one issue. But the moment you speak out, MAGA says, oh, Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
Colton Moore has Trump derangement syndrome, apparently. Because he can't set aside his own personal ambition to give the president what he wants.
Right.
And the president doesn't want Colton Moore.
Right.
The president wants Clay Fuller.
Now, what's interesting is this: when Trump endorsed Fuller, it came not long after there was an article, I think in The Hill, about the growing concern, especially in D.C., with 22 candidates, almost all of them Republicans, that they might lose this special election to a Democrat. In case you haven't noticed, there ain't no margin up there in the House. anymore.
No,
There was never much, and it's shrinking.
it's one
Yes.
right now, as it is. Barry Loudermilk was the 5th member of Congress to announce that he was not seeking reelection.
Yeah.
That is a lot of
A
people
lot.
who've decided to hang it up. That's a lot of intellectual consistency walking out the door.
Mhm.
People who know how to govern, or
Yep.
well, maybe they knew how to govern. They're not allowed to be, and so they're just like frustrated. There's a
Yep.
brain drain happening in Washington D.C.
Yep. So obviously, this is Trump trying to prevent that, trying to head that off at the pass by endorsing Clay Fuller. And I did have to see, speaking of Colton Moore, this kind of cracked me up. Apparently, one of the things that the Colton Moore's campaign is lobbying against Clay Fuller is that his real name is Clayton, not Clay. Why is he lying to us? And so that brought to mind he's doing a he's stealing a Nate Bargatze skit where Nate Bargatze talks about how his
Nathan.
yeah, the ticket said Nathan, and his driver's license says Nathaniel, and the ticket agent almost didn't let him on the plane.
They couldn't fix it, right? Let's talk about
Yes.
bureaucracy.
Right. But that's what they're reduced to over there, is stealing material from Nate Bargatze to try to lob it at Clay Fuller.
This is the problem, though, with pledging 100% loyalty to a person and not the Constitution,
Right.
not your oath of office, but
Right.
saying, I'm 100% with somebody, because there's going to be a moment when you're going to disagree.
Right.
And that's okay. It's
Sure.
okay. It's okay that Colton Moore is still in the race, but it is highly hypocritical to say to others, if you question the judgment of the president, you have Trump derangement syndrome. You're not
Yes.
America first.
Yes.
And then the moment he says, I don't want you, I want this other guy, you're like, I'm just going to stay in. It's hypocritical. You're a
Yes.
hypocrite.
It is.
And that's the problem with these loyalty pledges people make to people rather than to the concept of
Right.
their oath of office. Oh, our last topic of the night. We told you last time we recorded, don't rush to judgment. Let's sit back and watch. Let's see what is going on with this DOJ raiding the Fulton County Election Office. We don't know what they're doing. We didn't have access to the warrant. The warrant, there was a federal judge, and I believe an Obama appointed judge who clearly had been convinced that there was probable cause of potential criminal activity. And the warrant came out this week.
Yeah.
And we learned that many of the claims, if not all of them, had already been debunked.
Right.
And they did not tell the judge who signed the warrant that there had been investigations into these claims already. That they presented it as if we have these allegations, as if they were potentially fresh. If you read the warrant, it reads like these are fresh allegations. And the judge wasn't from here, wasn't familiar. So she signed off, and the DOJ got their warrant, and they went and got the ballots. Well, here's Stephen Fowler. Has been covering Georgia politics for quite some time. He's a national guy for NPR now, but he was in the trenches here as part of the Georgia Press Corps. And one of the things that is in the document is looking for Susie Voiles, who I love and adore. Susie Voiles is one of the sweetest human beings I've ever met. I genuinely love Susie, but she had this story back in 2020 that she was part of the audit team. And she came across a batch of pristine ballots that they were mail-in ballots, so they should have been folded.
Yeah.
But they were pristine, and they were identical.
Yes.
And the circles in them were perfectly filled out. And it's been part of the conspiracy lore that there were basically ballot stuffing going on, that Fulton County was able to.
They're just making up new ballots.
They were just making up new ballots, right? Well, there are other aspects of auditing where we can compare the number of people who voted to the number of ballots that were created.
They know how trails. They know exactly how many ballots,
when they got ordered. When they were printed. And one of the more disappointing things to me is Speaker Johnson, Mike Johnson, of the United States House, has propagated this lie that the state sent out actual ballots to everybody in the state. And that never happened.
No, that did not happen.
Okay. What did happen was everybody in the state got an application for a ballot. And if you wanted to actually be nitpicky about it, people who had moved out of the state and had a forwarding address on file got applications, and some of them filled them out.
Sure.
And that definitely happened. The numbers are out there. You can go and look for that for yourself. And we talked with Derek Somerville about that actually in the last podcast of 2025. It's a great episode. Go back and listen to that if you want to learn more of some of the data and the research that went into some of that stuff at the time.
But close the circle on the pristine ballots. Why?
So the pristine,
why do we know that that is not fraud?
This is from the Twitter feed of Stephen Fowler. Investigators Hall and Brown, who worked for Secretary of State, I think, met Fulton County Elections employee Nadine Williams at the Fulton County warehouse located on English Street in Atlanta on December 31st, 2020. The investigators were provided a small table to view ballots, which was in plain view of other election workers who were present. The batch numbers Voiles identified in her affidavit, 28 to 36, were not contained exclusively in box 5, but were spread across box 5 and 2 other boxes. The boxes were taped shut, and the Secretary of State seal on the box was marked with a signature. Investigators Hall and Brown reviewed the ballots. Investigator Ron picked up each ballot, looking at the front and back, searching for ballots Voiles described. Every ballot the investigators viewed had crease marks as if they had been folded. They did not observe any ballot that had perfectly marked ovals throughout the ballot. The investigators also did not observe any ballots that appeared to be in pristine condition, with many of the ballots having stains and other markings. In the January 8th interview with Voiles, Investigator Braun asked her to confirm whether it was box 5 that she reviewed and if batch numbers 28 to 36 were solely within box 5. She responded she thought they were, but that may have been an error, and it might be box 135. Voiles stated she remembers that batches 28 to 36 were contained within one box, and she told investigators she would check her notes for the box number. Investigators Braun asked her to check her notes and to call or email him back with correct box numbers. Voiles never confirmed the correct box number with the investigators.
But isn't there also, when you come to absentee ballots, they are folded because they're stuffed in an envelope and mailed. The Postal Service sometimes things get damaged in shipping. So if you cannot feed an absentee ballot into a machine to count it, then there's a process with observers and a legal process that allows elections officials to duplicate that ballot onto a quote unquote pristine form that can be fed into the counter. There's a process to do that, right?
There is. And there is.
So look, Susie Voiles might have seen in a gigantic county like Fulton, she might have seen quote unquote pristine ballots. That could be an explanation for why the existence of quote unquote pristine ballots, because they were damaged in the mail and they could not be. And the observers watch to make sure that the person doesn't change the voters' votes, right? This is how it works.
So there was an FBI investigation, according to the affidavit, which focused on 5 alleged deficiencies or defects with the election. I'm reading from Stephen's work now. With the election and the subsequent tabulation, missing images of ballots that were scanned multiple times, inconsistent vote counts during a hand count audit, ballots that could have been improperly inserted into the totals, and changing the vote totals during a machine recount. Of the 5, NPR's review of state investigative files only found one claim that was partially substantiated by law enforcement, who are trained election investigators, that some batches of ballots were scanned twice during a Trump-requested recount, which we've known about since 2020.
Yeah.
But ultimately, a 2024 report reads, these investigative findings do not affect the accuracy of the results of the 2020 general election. That's what Derek Somerville said about his own work in Fulton County, which were confirmed as accurate by both the risk limiting audit and the recount.
Yeah. There was nothing in this request for a warrant that was new to me. I'm not going to tell you that I remember the disposition of everything that happened 6 years ago, but every one of those supposed possible frauds we've heard of, right? and been, as you
Right.
said, it's been debunked.
And so
More
one of
than
the
once.
things that they hammer on is the risk limit audit didn't match the machine count exactly. And that's true. It was 0.1% off.
Yeah.
1/10 of 1%, little slightly, 0.1053% off. But anytime you're counting by hand 5 million ballots across 159 jurisdictions,
Yeah.
the fact that you got that close
That's impressive.
is impressive.
Actually, since this, I mean, I got disgusted, and I still feel this way. Since this raid, every conspiracy theory that had ever happened is back in business and being distributed around as if it were fact. And even new ones. I saw a clip of Rudy Giuliani. He's back from the dead, saying that there was a ballot manufacturing warehouse just down the street from where they were counting the ballots in Fulton County that was cranking out thousands and thousands of ballots to be inserted in there, all in favor of Biden, which is so stupid. Because if you were going to do that, first of all, we would know because people can't keep secrets. But also, why the heck would you only steal one election? That has always puzzled me. If you have the technology to send satellites into space to change voting machines, if you have a gigantic manufacturing warehouse just down the street where you can print unlimited number of ballots, all these things that these people have been saying, why did you only steal one election? Why were not Democrats elected to every office in this state of Georgia? I'm sick of it. If no matter what happens in this governor's race, I will be grateful to Rick Jackson because he's changed the subject. Because we were headed to that this 2020 relitigating all this over and over and over again was going to dominate our governor's race. And now it's not, because Rick Jackson has turned everything upside down and we're going to be arguing about him. Thank you, Rick Jackson, for getting in this race and saving us from having to fight over this forever and ever again.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if Burt backs off. Some of the other candidates in statewide office have not backed off. They've leaned in.
It's probably going to be the Secretary of State. It's a fait accompli. This is the issue. The 2020, every crazy thing you ever heard is going to be fought over again and again and again.
And on that sorry note, we've come to the end.
Crushing morosity to end the show here.
Yeah, my favorite 3 people that talked about cars who would end their show with. On that happy note, we have to wrap this up. And that means we have to thank the people who rock. If you want to join the people who rock again, head on over to patreon.com/peachpundit. Sign up today for any one of those tiers. We'll add you that Signal chat. Everybody who's a paid member of the people who rock get access to that free of charge. Well, it's in your $5. And it's a great community. We're building a great community there. Come be a part of it, but also like and subscribe. People who rock are Adam Pethel, Tony Weston, our friends at Americans for Prosperity, Amy Davis, multiple people who are anonymous, including one who wants you to know more about the Alzheimer's Association, Bethany Ballard, Bill Werkheiser, Bo Brannon, Colin Martin, Daniel Shaver, Elizabeth Clare, Gabe Hartwig, Jeff Cobble, Greer Howard, Hank Burnham, Harrison Edwards, Jacqueline Harn, James Hall, Jason Bankston, John Vestal, Jordan Reed, JT Marshburn, Ken Pullen, Kenyatta Mitchell, Lawton Sack, Mike Bucher, Reed Powell, Robert Lee, and our friends at Lee6 Media, Ron Daniels, Ryan Graham, Ryan Purvis, Sam Thomas, Sergio Ortega, Shannon Ferguson, Stuart Wilkerson, and Terry Fye. Thank you all again. We'll catch you next time. I'm Scott Turner. That's Buzz Brockway. All the music you hear is original by Jason Pye. Thanks for listening.
Go Jackets.